This video here is about the Dometic 3-mode absorption refrigerator. And we'll move up a little closer here. Is you have 3 modes. You have the 120 AC, you have gas propane, and you have the 12-volt DC. So if you turn I have the shore power on. I also have the propane on, and of course my battery's all charged up. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn it on. And there she's firing up. It's on auto. And that means that I'm going to be on, there it goes, 120 AC. Now I've had the refrigerator running on the AC power for a couple hours now. And it's the most efficient of the 3 modes, especially if you got your shore power. No need to use your propane. And I have it set on 5 over here, which is the coldest. So when you fire up your refrigerator, if you have shore power, the best thing to do is use your AC, and you set it on 5. So let me open up the refrigerator here. Okay, so been a couple hours, not quite to refrigeration yet, but in the freezer, it's already at freezing. And of course I got some popsicles in here, and they're starting to freeze up too. Now the other thing I want to point out here on the right is a sticker. Tells you your model number. And we have a 2020 Little Guy Max, and we have the RM 454. So now all this information on this sticker here, I've taken my manual over here, and I've written down all the serial numbers, UPC number, or the SKY number, and the serial number. So if I have to order anything, I've got all the information right here. So back to the refrigerator. I'm going to close the door up. And the next thing I'll go through is some of the key things that you need to be aware of. Okay, this manual from Dometic is pretty well written. Just have to spend some time with it. I'm going to be going over some of the key points here, and as you see, I've squared out my refrigerator, the RM2454, which is the 3 mode. Now, on the next page here, there's a couple important things about the absorption cooling system. When I had already pointed out, when you start it up, you should put it on the highest setting to get it cooled down. Now, the other important thing is to have your Little Guy Max or your travel trailer level. It's important for that to occur. And the other thing that they point out here is that if you're above 5,500 feet in altitude, is to only run it off the 120 AC. Now over here, we also have the automatic energy selector system. And when you do that, we have over here, when it's on auto, it's going to, if you have shore power, it's going to select that first. If there's no shore power, then it's going to go to propane next, or gas. And if you have neither of the two, it'll go to the 12-volt DC, but that has to be selected manually. So you can select it for gas by pressing this button here. It went to gas, and it'll automatically switch over. And then for DC, you press that, and it goes to the 12-volt DC. And if you hear that in the back, the power panel just turned on the fan because we're drawing 12-volt DC from the battery. With this Dometic refrigerator, there's a feature on here when you're trying to ignite the system with the gas propane. If it doesn't light after 3 attempts, which is it'll attempt for 45 seconds with 2-minute interval between before it starts the next cycle, then this check light will come on. Okay, to reset that check light, you turn it back off and turn it back on. Now, if during that time the AC power comes on, shore power, then it'll switch over to AC power being the priority when you're in auto. And to get that check light off, you got to turn it off and back on again. Now, another feature this refrigerator has, it's called Limp mode operation. There's 2 limp mode operations for this. First, if this display panel were to stop functioning, it automatically goes to the automatic and selects the best mode, with AC being the priority, and then propane, and then for the battery, it'll switch to the battery. And then it'll keep trying to get the display panel working. If it isn't, it sets itself right here at mid-range number 3 and will continue to operate until that display panel is corrected. Now, the second mode, limp mode of operation, is when the temperature sensor fails. Let's show you that. It's right over here. This guy over here in the back. And over here. This guy. Well, if that happens, it's going to operate the energy source selected via the control panel. And the cooling unit runs continuously on the selected energy source. The refrigerator continues to operate in this mode indefinitely until a new sensor is installed and the system is reset. Now, if you're traveling and you're in sub-zero temperatures, these refrigerators will stop working. And then the manual suggests that you turn it off, your refrigerator off, and then when the temperatures start rising, you can turn the refrigerator back on. Here we're testing the 12-volt DC operation of the Dometic 3-way refrigerator. As you can see, the DC light's on, and we have it on cold number 3, and it's been running for about 5 minutes. And you can check to see if it's cooling down. Just go inside, open up the refrigerator, put your hands on the coils here. You can feel they're cold, and especially over here in the freezer, you can feel that's cold also. As you can see, the temperature is 68. It was started out from ambient. But I'm going to close this up. I'll let it run for a little longer. But I want to show you what the current draw is. Now, I have installed a battery monitor, which is right over here. I'll leave a link to below on the battery monitor. What we have here, we're showing the down arrows right here. It's discharging. I have the shore power off so I can see the real discharge. And we're saying over here, 6 hours and 49 minutes left on the battery, and we're drawing 179 watts, and it's 14.4 amps draw. So the battery 12-volt DC mode of operation is not very efficient. It's going to draw down your battery pretty quickly. My battery here that I have is actually a 200 ampere hour, but I set the battery monitor for 100 ampere hours, which is 50% of the battery capacity. You don't want to really go down below that. And I set my alarm at 5 amps, or 5 ampere hours. And then that'll alarm me before it hits the 50%. So I'm going to let it run a little longer. And then I'm going to test the gas mode. I'm going to turn it off, let it come back to ambient, and we'll turn it on the propane mode. Okay, we're checking out the gas mode. You can see gas over here. and we had it set on high. I've had the refrigerator running about an hour on gas. And so if you want to check it out, again, like the electric, you put your hand over here on the fins, make sure they're cold. On the freezer part, it's really cold, and the temperature is dropping down into the refrigeration range, soon freezing. So that checks out the propane. Propane took about an hour. Here we are outside of the little guy Max, and this is the lower access panel for the refrigerator. And over to the right here is your propane. And you really can't see it. You can see it a little bit, but the way to check, wet your finger, touch this, it's hot, it's working. Okay, for cleaning your refrigerator, it's suggested you just use warm water. Do not use any cleaning solutions or whatever. Everything should be able to come off. Now, one thing it does mention is this sensor over here. If that's disrupted after you're through cleaning, make sure it's back in position so that it will sense properly. Now, when we're traveling, what we do is we end up using these guys over here. YETI ice blocks, blue ice. What we do is these fit right into the freezer. We use 2 of them, and when we're traveling and on the road, we take one of these blue ice packs and we put them one down here in the refrigerator. Now, we've traveled up to 7 hours, 8 hours in this situation, and when we get to the new place, usually we're going to be on shore power, but if not, the propane will also take care of the refrigeration. Now, some people use propane when they're traveling. I don't suggest that. That's pretty dangerous. And some people have used their battery because the car vehicle is charging their battery. And if you get into a place with shore power and the battery's not fully charged, you can bring the charge back up. I prefer not to even use the battery. Okay, to set up your refrigerator for travel, what we do is the day before, the morning before, we turn on the refrigerator. We set it on auto AC over here and coldest setting. Then also what we do is we have these YETI ice blocks or blue ice. We put in our regular refrigerator in the home and have those already frozen up. So what we do is let the refrigerator cool down. We have these gauges here, tell you when it's refrigeration for the refrigeration section. And here's the freezer one. And we have one of the YETI blue ices in here. I'm going to provide the measurements of these. I could not find where I had bought these. These were a couple of years ago when we bought them. But what you do is you measure your ice box and then get a couple of blue ice containers. So what we do is we have 2 in here once this refrigerator's up to freezing. And when we're traveling, we take one of them and we put it down in the refrigerator section when we're traveling. And then we load our refrigerator that night before we leave. And we're all set. And then in the morning, we move that ice block into the refrigeration section and we take off on our trip. Now, to defrost your refrigerator, what you do is you turn it off. You open your refrigerator up. You open up the ice pack, or the freezer portion. I use the YETI to keep it open until it reaches room temperature. Then at that point, you're going to find some condensation, wipe the condensation down, and that should take care of the defrosting portion of your refrigerator. Okay, we're inside the little guy Max. What you're looking at is your power panel here. And for the refrigerator, as far as the AC 120, AC 110, depends on who you talk to. right over here is the 5th breaker from the left. Is a 15 amp circuit breaker that is for the refrigerator AC. And then over here, the 2nd fuse down from the top is a 15 amp fuse. That's your DC side for the refrigerator. Alright, we're outside the little guy Max. This is the lower access panel to the refrigerator section. Here's the upper. What you should do is you should remove that, make sure those fins are clean, nothing's obstructing it. And as far as fuses, you've got another DC fuse right here. It's a 30 amp fuse, and they mark it as a 30 amp fuse here on the DC side. Over here you got an electrical cord, that's your 110 AC, and inside this control box here there's a 3 amp and a 5 amp fuse. I would suggest if you get into that control box, you may want to take it to an RV repair shop to take a look at that. So this ends the video. If you enjoy the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and have a nice day.